Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to this week's episode of Tuesday Preppers, where we take a look at the in-game news for FFBE Global Version and see what kind of trials and challenges we have coming up this week and what kind of materia, abilities, weapons, killers, and stuff that you can pull together to try and get now so that you can get ready for that stuff that's coming up this week. This week's stuff is all themed around Final Fantasy V, which I'm really excited about because I really enjoy Final Fantasy V in a lot of ways. Sadly, the units that are being released did not get any big upgrades or things that are make them really stand out or be really special. We'll talk about that briefly here in just a moment. But one of my favorite units in FFBE is getting upgrades this week. So we're very excited about that, and we'll talk about that as well before we get into some trials and stuff that you can do to get ready for this week's content. So let's take a look at what events we have. If you click here, the Forest of Slumbering Crystals, it's going to house most of the stuff for this week, and it's in a couple different pieces. So this is one of those like farming box summon events where you're going to take units and get currency to summon out of the box. So that's kind of cool, and you're going to be able to get a bunch of stuff from it, including a fairly nice two-handed fire elemental sword, and then a spear with 100% jump damage on it. Are there better options? Yeah, but if you're just starting this week because you think Final Fantasy V is really cool and you want to check out this game, these are some really nice starter pieces of equipment. Starter gear is starter gear. Veteran players probably don't care that much, but it is really neat. And there you go. So before we get too far into it, look at these wonderful sprites. My goodness, they're so good. Yeah, very cool. So this is the kind of the whole point of this event, or this thing. You're farming up against different enemies, and the enemies that you're fighting are these crystal things. Now, these sealed crystals is a daily mission. The first one that we're doing is the Forest of Slumbering Crystals, but they have the same enemy. So they are stone enemies, and in the farming event, they have no weaknesses or resistances, which if you've played Final Fantasy V, you know that is definitely not true about these enemies. Yeah, no weaknesses, no resistances. You can break them with whatever you want. But in the daily quest, which is the sealed crystals thing there, that is a little bit different. It's still a stone enemy. They are all 50% wind resistant and that you can use all the breaks you want on them according to the wiki. It's a daily quest, so you definitely don't want to miss it because you get a lot of event points and certificates and other rewards on a daily basis. Definitely get in there and do it. With a 50% wind resistance decrease, there's lots of options that we have for wind damage dealers, but even the original NVA Bartz is a nice budget wind support. So you could definitely take him, and probably the newly upgraded X-Death, and probably take this out, as well as Ferris. So we've got a lot of options for how to do this on a daily basis. Definitely don't skip out on it. Prepare yourself with some Stone Killer, and let's get it done. If you scroll down just a little bit, you see this thing here, the bond between the pirate and the sea dragon. That is an upgrade event for Ferris, and I'm very, very excited about this because Ferris is one of my favorite units in FFBE. I know that she's not super great, but she's got probably one of my favorite CG limit bursts in the entire game, and I'm super excited that she's finally getting these upgrades that you do by beating this challenge. It's an aquatic enemy that is resistant to fire, light, and dark. And it is also resistant at 100% to ice and water, but you can do some damage to it with lightning, wind, and earth. You can also break it, and doing this is going to get you her unit-specific crowns and Emperor Gigantar. So making her level 130 should be pretty easy, and then crowning her new abilities for free is a lot of fun. So there's also a little note here that you can exchange her Master's Crowns, her silver ones, for a gold one. If you don't need them, but at this point, again, her upgrades are so late that nobody's had a chance to upgrade her with regular crowns. So you can use her silver ones on her. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what her upgrades are. First and foremost, she gets the Unleashed Evocation, which she already has. And it's going to change it from being a double-sided field to a party-only sided field. It's going to increase her boosts from 25% all the way up to 40% for water, earth, and lightning damage, also making them physical and magical boosts. And it lasts for 10 turns. So that's really cool. So I can imagine lots of different ways you could use this to your advantage. For example, pairing her with Sage of Thunder Sakura and Sylvie for a really nice combo of Earth Amp and Earth Imperil, or Lightning Imperil and Lightning Amp, or just pairing her with Sylvie again for a Earth Imbue and Earth Imperil and Earth Amplify. So we've got a lot of options there. Pairing her with Tsukiko for a big Earth Imperil field. Lots of neat things that we can do. And even though her own personal damage is not that great, you know, now we have the Ayaka Vision card that gives her a really nice chaining ability that does really significant damage. So I can see her doing a lot of neat things with a bunch of different teams for water, lightning, and earth damage going forward. She also just kind of gets for free. Those are her crowned abilities. She also gets for free Warring Spirit at EX2 and 500 Magic at EX3, and then her limit burst for both Brave Shift and Base Form have been upgraded. So it's gonna be really, you know, I'm looking forward to being able to use one of my favorite units again. I love when they do release these upgrades. I wish we got them when they were relevant, but I'm planning on having some fun with her. So hopefully you've all got your Ferris and you're ready to start copying some clears that have Ferris in it, because it's gonna be coming. Okay, now in addition to the Ferris event and the Crystal events, there's one more, and it is the exploration event, the Warlock's Castle. This one is an exploration, and you do get some other stuff like the Ice Brand and the Twin Lance, and those are upgradable in this event, so that's kind of cool. The final boss of this is Gilgamesh. He is a human enemy with weakness to fire, lightning, wind, earth, and light at 50%. So lots of team options you can bring to do some damage to Gilgamesh. You can break him, and you can use every status ailment on him except for Petrify. So I'm imagining just some fun shenanigans of using like paralysis and poison and blind, and you know, just do a lot of goofy things to him, and that'll be fun maybe. So have some fun with that if you can. Now, he is human. There's tons and tons of human killer in the game, so I'm not too worried about that one. And while the aquatic killer that you might need for the Ferris event is pretty rare, there's not a ton that we really need to worry about there. The best aquatic killer that you can get as a trial reward comes from beating one of the hardest 12 types trials. Excuse me. The Catastrophe. And so that's a really challenging one. So we're not going to worry too much about that one right now. I'm going to focus on Stone. Let's talk a little about what killers you can get before we move on to anything else. So for Aquatic Killer, like I mentioned, the Aquan Eater sense comes from Catastrophe, the hardest version. And that's really, I mean, while it's very beatable, I've done it. It's one of the harder 12 types trials that we had got. You can also get Tiger Fang's FFBE from Scorn of the Beast of the Dark. The best way to get Aquan Killer at this point is just to farm friend points and then spend them hoping to get Ollie, and then use your TMRs on him, and then you can upgrade those Aquatic Killers into Aquan Killer Plus once you beat the Octomammoth, which is quite easy. I've done a couple different clears of that, so there you go. Stone Killer, or Human Killer rather, is the other one, like I said, for Gilgamesh. Cross Aigayan Arm is a decent option, good for a budget. Thorn Mace Plus, also good for a budget. Mace Imperil now exists with a couple different units, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Probably the best STMR you can make for Human Killer is Guy's Belt, and you can use Star Quartz to get Guy now, so it's like super easy to just get tons and tons of Human Killer Plus. So yeah, Guy is definitely the way to go, but there's a lot of good stuff for Human Killer. Stone Killer is the one that I want to focus on because there's 2 events that are stone, and one of them is a daily, you know, so it's important. Stone Killer Plus you can get from Stroper Advance. You can make your own Stone Killer Pluses with King Geot materia that you can kind of fuse together with the recipe that you get from Stroper. So that's cool, but the one we're going to be doing tonight is Stone Eater Sense from the Archaeo Avis, the hard version. Now, this is not a hard trial. I'm going to show you 2 different clears. One is a 1-turn KO, and one is a 6-turn KO that actually kind of shows what the fight does. It's not that difficult though, even though it's a 12 types takedown. It was the first 12 types, and we're going to show you, a way to do it with some like not very great units. So we'll have some fun with it. You could also do Darksteel Destroyer, Heavy Armor from Armor of Oppression, and Demon Axe from the Scorn of the Great Explosion Festival. Not the best items, not the worst items. There's tons of TMRs and STMRs as well. Wild Rose Furians, Weapon Specialist on the list for Human Killer and for Stone Killer. Pretty cool. Scanning Goggles from Eileen and Partisan from Moogle of Narsh Nog. Moogle of Narsh Mog. I say that funny every time. Storm Bunny Jacket from Esther. Lots of stuff there. Stone Killer's pretty common these days. Yeah, Archaeo Avis is going to help us get ready for that. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the team that we're going to use to take that in just a second. Really quick, I'm going to talk about the units. Again, the sprites on these are really, really cool. Bartz and Creel just look fantastic, and I love X-Death's upgraded sprite now that he's coming as an NBA. There's a step up available with the kind of bad armory ticket selection. If you know why they keep shoving this on us is beyond me, but nobody wants it. And then there's a step up for Bartz and Creel. There they are. There's Bartz looking really cool. Wind damage dealer or fire, light, and earth damage dealer. And then Creel is a white mage or a berserker. And I think her sprites are just so cute. Look at her. Oh my gosh. And then there's X-Death. So I feel like X-Death is kind of like the winner of like the useful units here. X-Death is basically just like an alternative version of Golbez. Different killers, different stats, probably gears a little bit easier depending on what you're fighting. Gears a lot easier than Onion Knight. I'm just excited to have more options as far as Meteor users. So very cool. I'm ready to go. My X-Death is set. So yeah, pretty cool. There's the items in the armory. They are definitely not worth it. So yeah, let's talk about getting ourselves some Stone Killer, shall we? We're gonna go to the Vortex, and we're gonna go after the Archaeo Avis, like I said. Now this is also fun because the Archaeo Avis was a very fun challenge in Final Fantasy V, so it's like very thematic for the week. It's a 12 types takedown. Here we go, all the way at the bottom. Archaeo Avis advanced version. And here's our challenges. So we have to beat it to get Bird Killer Plus, which is good. Defeat it within 6 turns to get Stone Eater Sense, which is why we're here. And if we do it with a party of 5 or less with nobody dying, we get some tickets and STMR exchange tickets. It says here he's a bird, right? That makes sense. It's the bird trial. And he lowers lightning resistance with an area effect, but changes to lowering ice resistance when you drop it below a certain level. That certain level is 50%. So once you go below 50, you have to switch to ice attacks, or you want to switch to ice attacks. We're going to do that. All right, so here's what we're going to show you. Our team is not going to involve a companion, and we're taking a couple different units. So we've got Runda, who's going to be covering the physical stuff, as well as giving us a nice ice buff at some point in the fight. Pretty useful. He can also break attack with his Runda laser and Runda blaster, so that's pretty cool. Sakura is here to do a couple things. She's going to do lightning support for us in the early stage of the fight, and she's just going to always also keep us on our feet in the later part of the fight, just using some buffs and stuff like that. Reno is here as our breaker. I'm including Reno because he, with his crowned abilities, is a fairly useful breaker, and he does a really nice lightning imperil at 140%. So we're going to use that to our advantage in the first stage of the fight. Other than that, he's also going to cast Imperil from the Diablo's Esper. Now, if you're bringing Shantoto, you do not need to cast Imperil, but we're going to pretend that we don't have Shantoto and we're bringing somebody else. So you could do that. If you are going to bring Shantoto, you can use her Limit Burst to break ice resistance, and you can give Reno something like Lakshmi. You could do that. So let's go ahead and let's demonstrate that. That'll be better anyway. That way we can heal the party when the boss does some damage to us. So that'll be good. We'll bring Lakshmi. We'll do it that way since we are bringing Shantoto. Celeste is here for 2 reasons: Bird Killer and Ice Imbue, and that's going to help us out. Now, she is probably the best geared unit on our team because she's wearing the Archaeo Vision card, which is giving her this chaining ability, which is really, really awesome. And you could also raise the question, if you're gonna bring the Archaeo Vision card, it must mean that you have Archaeo. Why don't you just bring Archaeo? And I'm saying that I want to do it with Celeste. So we're gonna show you another team that does this in one turn. It does use Archaeo, but we're not doing it. Okay, cool. And then here's Shantoto. Shantoto's here just to chain with Celeste and help us out. So let's go ahead and, well, I'll show you all their gear too. You know, Runda's just geared for defense and evasion. There you go. Sage of Thunder is just geared with like magic. She doesn't even do any damage. She's got some Esper fill. She's got, you know, mostly just, you know, whatever. She is wearing dual cast, right? And the Judgment Staff to dispel us. That she's going to dispel lightning off us later on in the fight. That way we can do ice damage instead. Reno is just here to break. There you go. He doesn't really do damage. I don't know why I bothered putting Master Fate on there. It doesn't really matter. There you go. Celeste, I just showed you her gear. She's wearing the Dark Vision sword and Golbez armor. Just a bunch of like stuff. Lynx hat's not necessary, but you know, just a nice magic hat. I didn't want to like armor up with all the Clash of Wills gear. You know, didn't want to be totally cheesy. And then Shantoto here is wearing the Aaron Yes ring for quadcast, and then she's got Blizzara equipped. She's got Thundera equipped from a Esper, and that way she can do some chaining with Celeste. So let's get into it. Go ahead and put our actions up on the screen so you can see what we're doing. All right, boss starts out by lowering lightning resistance. So we're gonna do lightning damage first, but before we can do that, we have to kind of buff ourselves up a little bit. So we're gonna waste a turn. Sakura is going to do status reset for status immunity, Thunderstone for thunder buff, and thunder imbue, and then she's just going to cast Protectica to reduce physical damage. There you go. Runda's going to use his LB. That's going to keep Celeste from doing too much damage to herself when she gives us Bird Killer. Her Bird Killer is called Life Devoted to the Opera. There we go. Now she didn't hurt us too bad. Shantoto, just to kind of get ready for chaining, is going to use Double Cast. I've Lost My Temper and Elemental Seal. Reno is just going to use his newly crowned Pyramid's Peak, which is pretty nice. It's an 88 defense and spirit break, and then a 140 lightning imperil. Pretty nice. There we go. Now we're ready to do some damage. Runda takes minimal damage from those AoE physical attacks on turn 1, and we're ready to go. To help us with that, Sakura is going to go ahead and use her Limit Burst for a nice stat buff. There we go. And then we're just going to use Ayaka's Vision card's ability and quadcast with Blizzard or Thundera, the Bolting Strike skill, just like the Vision card, and we can do some nice damage here with it. Pretty nice. Runda is just going to cover and laser, and we're going to Shelga. And Reno doesn't have to do anything at this point. He could do all kinds of things, but we're just gonna guard. There's a bunch of status attacks that come in on Runda now. He's fine because he's wearing immunity gear and he has the buff anyway. And we're ready to do some damage again. We're just going to reload and chain our 2 chainers. And notice we're now below 50%. So from here, the boss is going to switch to an Ice Imperil field. So we want to start doing ice damage next turn. To help us with that, Sakura is going to use the Dispelga trick, and she's going to use Dual Cast, Dispelga. And the order of this is important. We're going to dispel the boss and dispel ourselves, so we need to do this before we put any breaks up on turn 3. To do this, you use Double Cast, send it, and then immediately target your team, and select target, and then you'll dispel yourself. It's kind of an old trick. Notice we both got dispelled. If you've never seen that before, now you just learned something really fun about the game. Runda, because his cover is now dispelled, is going to use cover. He's going to use Runda Barrier for an ice resistance buff. And then he's going to use Runda Laser to break the boss's attack and magic. There we go. And Reno is just going to use his Pyramid. Pyramid is an 84% break. If you have Numbing Thunderbird or Darkbreaker or something like that, that is technically a little better at 85%, but we're going to go ahead and use his LB. And notice we're on turn 3 and have 29% health left, so we're ready to go. But now we need to switch to Ice, because the boss just puts up an Ice effect. Some physical attacks come in, some fire attacks come in, some ice attacks come in. They hurt a little bit. That's why we switched Reno to be able to cast Lakshmi. So on this turn, Celeste is going to use Maria's Song for Ice Imbue and Amplify and stat buffs. Shantoto is going to use Play Rough to do an Ice Imperil. Reno is going to use Lakshmi to heal us. Runda is going to use SLB. And Sakura can honestly just do like status reset, right? And like mitigation, so like Shelga and Protectka. We're all fully healed. We're all fully buffed up. Runda's mitigating for us. We got ice stuff going on. And now we're going to take minimal damage again. Even from double Blizzard Jaws. And we're ready to just start doing damage again. Now, here's the key. We do not have, we don't have a bird killer buff anymore, so we are going to be doing a little less damage, but we're okay. So we're going to go ahead and quad. Now we're switching to ice. And, you know, if you're really worried about it, you could have Runda try and chain too. You know, just do a little bit extra damage. Reno's kind of done too. You know, you could also have a Reno chain technically with bolting strikes just to kind of get in there and, you know, try and chain a little bit. So let's see here. Pushing the boss a little bit more. We're down to 8%. We're looking good. And Sakura doesn't really have anything to do, so she'll just guard. Some attacks come in, nothing really hurts that bad. Once you break this boss, he does really pretty minimal damage. And now we're on turn 6, which is our target turn, right? Within 6 turns to get Stone Eater Sense, which is why we came. So we're just gonna hit reload and chain it up. There you go. So that's one way you could do this. Let's say you are in a little bit more of a hurry and you want to do it a faster way. I got you. Go ahead and show you the damage breakdown too. Right? That vision card, it's stupid. Notice she only had like 5,000 magic and she did most of the damage with that stupid vision card, okay? Ayaka's vision card is very, very good. Speaking of, we're going to show you how to do this in one turn. Same challenges, different team. Let's go. We're going to take this team. So obviously better units, right? So we've got a Breaker, better Breaker in Louise. We got a nice buffs from Sylvie, Bird Killer buff, and then some nice damage dealing chainers. Let's do it. I'm in a hurry and I need my Stone Killer now. Louise is just going to incapacitate for 90% break, power boost, diverse arsenal, heavy firepower, why not? Sylvie's going to shift and she's going to triple. She's going to bolt egg, lightning blessing, and clever paladin strike for a sword imperil. Bulwark is going to shift and give us some nice bird killer. Camello's Prelude. And then Fravia is going to use the Ayaka Vision card, and Ayaka is going to just quad black magic chain bolting strikes. There we go, Thundera, and goodbye, boss. So that's a way you could do it in one turn if you have the options. Kind of funny. You're going to see something a little silly here. Something you've probably never seen before and probably never will see again is Bravia doing, significantly more damage than Ayaka, but it is what it is. That vision card is a little too good for its britches. So, anyways, there you go. That's going to get you some Stone Killer and get you ready for the daily challenges and the farming event. Human Killer is a little easier to come by, and Aquatic Killer is a little harder to come by. And it's also on, kind of a limited basis. You only have those 4 levels to do for Ferris, so shouldn't be too bad. And we'll have some fun with that on Thursday night over on Twitch. So if you've never come out and checked us out on Twitch, please do. And we'll have some fun with that Thursday night, 9 p.m. Central Time. And we look forward to seeing you there. Until then, go get yourself some Stone Killer and be good to each other. Take care. All right.